In last session we have explored front-end development. Now let's see what is backend development. Backend development focuses on the part of a web application that end users don't see directly, but it is essential for making application work properly. For better understanding, consider this contact form that appeared on this web application. When user fills out a contact form with relevant data and hit submit, the form data is submitted to server. Most of the time, the front end of web application sends data to backend controller or API. API or controller is basically nothing but a web application endpoint, like this URL. Most of the time it may be the same URL used to render the web page. But it sends the request with different request method. For example, when I load this page for first time, it sends the request with get method. But when I submit the form, it sends the request with post method. This is how we can use same endpoint or URL for different purposes. In modern web applications, we use frameworks like React or Angular for front-end development. We use API endpoints developed using different backend programming languages like Java, Python, PHP, C#, .NET, etc. Hence in such cases the API endpoint is different from the front-end URL. An API, also known as Application Programming Interface, acts as the bridge between the front-end and the backend. Many times, the API also uses different backend services to complete different tasks such as sending email, SMS or WhatsApp messages, processing payments using payment gateways, user authentication, storing data to databases, notification services, etc. We can write our code for API and services using any programming language. Different programming languages are having different syntax or how the code is written. They have different compiler to compile the code to machine-readable form. What's crucial is becoming proficient in at least one backend programming language, as this will provide a strong foundation for learning others. In this course, we'll focus on mastering one backend language and then explore the basics of others to give you an overall understanding of how other languages works. When we deal with real-world web applications, it contains information which we need to store. This data can be stored in plain text files, JSON, XML, or CSV files. But it is less efficient for handling large amounts of structured data, and that is why we need databases. Backend development also covers database development. There are two main types of databases, which are relational databases and non-relational databases. We use relational databases when data is organized into tables with clear relationships between them. They work well for applications that need to manage and connect lots of detailed information accurately. Some examples of relational databases are SQL Server, MySQL, and PostgreSQL. It is used in most of the web applications, from a simple website that stores form data to large e-commerce websites, banking systems, and customer relationship management systems. When dealing with unstructured data, or when the application needs high flexibility, scalability, or performance, we use non-relational databases. Non-relational databases are suitable for applications where data relationships are less complex or change frequently. Some examples of non-relational databases include MongoDB and Amazon DynamoDB. These types of databases are used for video streaming platforms such as Netflix and YouTube, as well as for social media platforms like X. When an API or service is called, it needs to fetch data from the database each time. Most of the time, even if the data is not changed, it still requires a complete round trip to and from the database to obtain the same data. This leads to unnecessary server resource usage. To avoid this, we use caching. As a backend developer, you should be capable to handle application caching to make your application more efficient. When data is requested frequently, caching stores a copy of that data in a faster temporary storage. This way, instead of fetching the data from the server, or from the primary source like database, or files every time, the system can quickly retrieve it from the cache. Caching is needed to speed up access to data and reduce the load on servers. Tools like Redis, Memcached, and Apache Ignite are commonly used for caching. In a web application, multiple users might make requests at the same time, such as placing orders, sending messages, or uploading files. To manage these simultaneous requests and avoid overloading of the system, a process called queuing is used. Queuing helps by organizing requests into a waiting line. When a request arrives, it's added to the line. The system then processes these requests one by one, or in small groups, ensuring that each request is handled efficiently without overwhelming the server. Tools like Apache Kafka, RabbitMQ, and Amazon SQS are used to implement and manage this queuing process. Thus, the role of a backend developer involves integrating all the components, which includes API, database, caching, and queuing, into an interconnected system that works efficiently. In this course, we'll explore each aspect of backend development in detail. By the end of the course, you'll have a comprehensive understanding of how backend components work together to power web applications. You will also gain practical skills to apply these concepts in real-world projects.